let me just say this. You probably have more policy statements and positions on your website than maybe most, if not all, of your primary opponents. Everything from Medicare for all to what to do about the penny. But your big idea is the universal basic income, UBI, this freedom dividend you talk about, $1,000 a month for every adult in the United States. We don't have a heck of a lot of time, but make your case. Why?
Well, right now you have Amazon soaking up $20 billion in business every year and paying zero in taxes. And so for Americans around the country, how are they experiencing any of the gains from technological innovation? If we put a freedom dividend in the hands of every American adult, a lot of that money would get circulated right back into their local communities and local businesses. It would make our children stronger, make us healthier, mentally healthier, and it's the best way to prepare our people for an economy when we're in the process of automating away retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, and eventually truck driving jobs, which will be a disaster for many American communities.
You suggest paying for this with a value-added tax, but wouldn't that really hurt the people who live hand-to-mouth, the people who are the poorest in the country?
Well, again, we're putting $1,000 a month in the hands of every American adult, so the vast majority of Americans would experience a significant increase in buying power. And you can also tailor a value-added tax to fall more heavily on people who can most afford it. But we have to join the rest of the industrialized world. Every other advanced country already has a value-added tax, in part to avoid companies like Amazon paying zero in taxes.
Is there a benefits trade-off if Americans opt into this $1,000 a month? What are they giving up to get that money?
Well, the freedom dividend, it's universal for every adult. It is opt-in, and if you opt in, you'd be foregoing benefits from certain existing programs.
Which one?
But I talked to American, so a lot of the cash equivalent programs, so it'd be housing assistance, fuel subsidies, other things that put money into people's hands to buy basic needs.
Social Security?
Social Security, it's an opt-in the sense that if you're getting over $1,000 in Social Security, then the freedom dividend would not necessarily be additive. But when I talk to retirees, most married couples, between the two of them, are receiving less than $2,000 a month in Social Security.
Let me ask you, there are lots of policy prescriptions on your website, but there's just one section of foreign policy first principles. There's not a
Exactly how much does Andrew Yang think $1,000 can buy? What up, guys? Total Control 871. Today we're going to be vetting and taking a closer look at presidential candidate Andrew Yang's Universal Basic Income, UBI. Now, as we just heard, in order to get Andrew Yang's universal basic income, we learned that it's actually not as universal as he would have us believe, that you're going to have to choose between his UBI and entitlements, state supplemental programs. Maybe this will be good for, put it like this, this would have been great for me 25 years ago. Actually longer than that. When I first hit the ground here in New Jersey, and in between jobs, before I had accrued enough of a work history to get unemployment, there I am with my $140 cash benefit welfare check. I think about $214 in food stamps. So UBI would have been fucking fantastic 28 years ago, But today, you would have to forego everything. And there's a whole lot of caveats to it that you guys might not necessarily think. What UBI would do, it would eventually eliminate a lot of the programs and bring everything under one umbrella program. I suppose UBI would also function as a type of filtration to woo the non-disabled who are collecting disability. Or actually, you know what? I get that it would work as a type of filter to purge a lot of bullshit claims, okay? But it would also be predatory for valid claims like mine that would have a predatory effect. Wooed into surrendering your Social Security disability. Gone and got a job with whomever. And now that you're underperforming, like we saw in our Walmart story, the job wants to go in a different direction. No worries, you've got UBI to fall back on. The problem with that is that the value-added tax, it would cause pricing to explode. Inflation would go through the roof. You're looking at something like $15 extra McDonald's meals, $22 movie tickets. You're looking at a price surge in your utilities, and of course, there's going to be the granddaddy of them all. Suddenly, one-bedroom apartments are going to start costing $1,500 a month for your quasi-ghetto ones, and $2,000 a month for some of your nicer complexes. Now, with you getting a paycheck and UBI, because that's the employed are the only who are eligible to have both. Remember that. That's very important to remember. Everybody else would have to surrender whatever it is they're getting to get a UBI check, okay? Now remember, the whole concept behind UBI is to hoist the proletariat not into luxury. I get that. Not into luxury. I'm not looking for UBI to give me a vacation in Majorca, okay, so that I can cycle Sacalabra. I get that, okay? But the concept behind UBI is to hoist the proletariat out of hand to mouth, out of the food banks, to begin to give people a life. Because he goes to, he talks about, healthier, mental healthier. We heard about, Tim Ryan, presidential candidate Tim Ryan, talk about how stressed out Americans are. There's stories going around now, news coverage stories talking about the stress level of Americans. UBI will do nothing to stymie automation. Nothing. Andrew Yang would have us believe that UBI is an answer to automation. I'm trying to keep my focus here because there's like so much I want to tell you and communicate to you. It's difficult to let me see if I can give you a model. Because as I was listening to Andrew Yang, and not just that segment, but also other stories on the UBI, there's this one particular ex-co-worker that pops to mind. Guy's name was Ronnie. We did valet, drive car jockeys. And Ronnie had just got promoted to supervisor. Good for him. And the supervisor's got like the hand radio to communicate to the different locations and stuff like that. And as I'm listening to the whole UBI, all I can think is Ronnie and the radio. Ronnie and the radio. What happened was that when Ronnie was getting out of a customer's car, the radio squeezed out of his back pocket. and it got left in the car. And you would have thought the owner would have found it and, you know, maybe give a call. And I mean, heck, the parking company would have paid to have it shipped back, but whatever. Point is, the radio's gone. And this company, they were called Central Parking System, CPS. They wanted Ronnie to pay for it, and they were going to force him to pay for it. And all of us, you know, employees were like, "Wow, that's fucked up. This is a wealthy company. It's not like radios get lost on the daily. You know, you would have thought that a wealthy corporation would have absorbed the cost as the cost of doing business." Yeah, right. I could talk about the owners and the operators. Never mind, because we're not going down that road as to who owns it. Anyway, Ronnie had just purchased this really nice pickup truck. It was a Chevy, I believe it was. Decked out with like ground effects. It's like I want to say it was a Z, one of them Z1s, I don't know, Z71, whatever. It was a used vehicle, and apparently it was financed. That's a whole separate argument over financing used vehicles, but anyway, the point. And I believe there was also some other expenses. It's been so long ago since this happened. I don't want to give like false details, but I think maybe his home. Do I want to say he got a home? He bought a home, or whatever the details were. Ronnie was financially entrenched. Okay, that's the overall point. Ronnie's possessions possessed him. That is the point, okay? That swanky truck of his had title and ownership over the human that drove it. Okay, the vehicle owns you. You don't own the vehicle. So normally, you know, it was like Ronnie was like, because everybody was asking like, "Oh, Ronnie, man, you know, tell him to go fuck themselves. Just go get another job." But you know, he was entrenched, and he had financial responsibilities. The point is, they later came to a compromise, but he couldn't just simply walk away from the job. People will buy, and again, that's a whole thing. You can get into a discussion that goes back to our Mr. Money Mustache. Again, looks like his principles tend to prove correct. People buy up. People buy a little bit more than what they can afford, meaning that people, were this UBI to actually go into effect, a lot of people would end up purchasing, getting themselves involved in an economy that requires both of their incomes, their paycheck and their UBI. Oh my God, what happens when the job goes away? For whatever reason, because remember now, luckily for Ronnie in that particular instance, he had the option of just simply paying for the radio. It was like $1,200, by the way. You know, it's expensive ass radio. And he could have either paid that money for the radio, or, you know, but what happens in a situation like our Walmart story where they want to restructure? And hell, who's to say that restructuring only affects the disabled? Restructuring affects everybody. In the 08-09 mortgage meltdown, Target restructured, and it got lean and mean. Man, there was a bloodbath. They call that President Nixon's Saturday Night Massacre. Fired a couple of people. Big deal. I understand the implications around the firing and whatnot, but But no, a massacre is definitely what a lot of corporations, most notably Target, did. Target, they always had a very top-heavy organization, company, heavily entrenched in management. Um, and not only did they trim the fat in management, but a lot of companies do this. They will take the meat cleaver and whack off security. Clunk. That would be me. What they like to do is they know they need security, but what they like to do is get a reassessment. So for a while there, yeah, they were just simply flying ass out in the wind with no security working the door or no security personnel in the office. Could you imagine when people would know that? But yeah, my absence was indeed noticed by the shoplifting rings in the area, and word got out. The big guy at the door ain't there no more, and people were coming up to me, months after my termination. Oh my God, Amir, they're in there loading up shopping carts and just pushing it out the door. Now, Target, they understood that this would probably happen, and maybe to the individual, the employee, they'd be like, oh my God, the merchandise is just going out the shit's all insured. And what Target does is that they now get a reassessment. Okay, so how much security do we actually need? And then they rehire, not me, but because we got to reset, so everybody gets rehired at starting wages. And let's see, am I off topic here? I might be. But the point is that people will buy homes, apartments, the types of vehicles, and it's going to be predicated on two sources of income. There are a lot of grasshoppers out there. I mean, that's because I know we hear about the predatory lending in the wake of the 0809, the what do they call it, the short mortgages, or whatever the fuck they called it in The Big Short, that movie. We understand that people shouldn't, put it like this. I have no idea during that time period if I would have qualified for a mortgage making only $10 an hour, like a subprime mortgage. Probably would have. But I'm intelligent enough to know not to get involved in some crazy shit like that. Hell, I don't even sign on to a 1-year lease with income that's very iffy, like that. When I was showing you guys my my income there, my last job, it was about $30,000 I earned that last year. I could have had an apartment, but of course, the bulk of that money was earned on overtime. I can't sign onto a 1-year lease hoping somebody's going to call out, or that there's going to be natural storms and a lot of overtime to be had. Anyway, so people will buy over and above, and then what happens when you lose your job? What kind of time do I got here? 18. I know I ate up a bunch of time. And when they lose their job and they still got their UBI, the first thing they're going to want to go is, I guess I got to go down to the unemployment office and file a claim. Oh, no. No. Remember now, you voted for UBI, for Andrew Yang's UBI. Okay? I understand your apartment, your car note, maybe the schools for your kids or after school activities, and that's all predicated on two sources of income. That's all been brought under one umbrella now, okay, UBI, okay, and yeah, that means that there's no food stamp program anymore. SNAP is completely gone. Rental assistance, which means my housing voucher, gone. Start thinking now. Remember, it's only $1,000 this man wants to give you. $1,000 isn't shit. Okay? You know, I kind of went back and forth as to whether or not I should tell you guys this. But my housing voucher, it does indeed cover 100% of the rent. Now, some of you might be saying, "Holy smokes, you don't got to pay any rent when you get your place." It's not exactly a cash cow feast at all. Remember now, even though the rent will be taken care of, there's still utilities. So, saw that off the log. Pull it forward. Okay, now you got to buy food. That's a big chunk off the log. Pull it forward, okay? And then there's the granddaddy of them all. Actually, food is the granddaddy of them all, but the second biggest, kind of insulting, they got the nerve to put the word health insurance on it. This is my Social Security card. As you can see, Part A only. Part A only. The next huge chunk on the log would be the $200 plus, $225, $230 for health insurance. All the presidential candidates are harping about, oh, Medicare for all, Medicare for all. Well, there's my Medicare card right there. I got access to, I can't afford it. Okay? Even with the rent completely taken care of. Do you understand? This is why I'm telling you, $1,000 a month isn't shit. I don't know where the fuck Andrew Yang's head is at. Okay? This would have been great 28 years ago. But today, please. $1,000 isn't shit. Okay? So if I sit there and chop off from our log $225, $240 for the doctor office visit and the script plan and your donut hole, okay? There you are left with your little stump of a log. There you are, your little stump of a log. Next, and oh yeah, now that we've talked about, I know I ate up so much fucking time. 22. Now that we talked about how the money isn't shit that he's proposing, how you could find yourself completely fucked designing your life around a dual income type of thing, and we've talked about what happens, what could happen should one of those incomes suddenly disappear. Now let's talk about the taxation associated with it. See, this thing gets worse and worse. We heard about the value-added tax, VAT. Reading from Wikipedia now. Where is my... Oh, there they are. Excuse me. Alrighty. Alrighty now. VAT essentially compensates for the shared services and infrastructure provided in a certain locality by a state and funded by its taxpayers that were used in the elaboration of that product or service. Important part here. Not all localities require VAT to be charged, and goods and services for export may be exempt duty-free. VAT is usually implemented as a destination-based tax where the tax rate is based on the location of the consumer, where you'd be at, and applied to the sales price. Confusingly, the term value-added tax, or GST, consumer services tax, consumption tax, and sales tax are sometimes used interchangeably. Okay? Sometimes used interchangeably, which means that this value-added tax, it would not necessarily be required to take the place of our already existent sales tax. Okay? So now here you are with your puny ass $1,000 a month, and now suddenly, excuse me, the prices of items have gone up. Why? Well, because it's a free market, and the free market understands that, woo, everybody's walking around with the extra $1,000 in their pocket. Unfortunately, that isn't actually true, because a lot of people would have had to have chosen between the two. Which takes me to my point about this tax of Andrew Yang. So a person like me would have to choose between UBI and my Social Security. However, Andrew Yang would not have to choose between the value added tax, the GST, and the sales tax. He'll hit us with both. And you'd be a fool to think that he won't. Okay, do not think that he would not give us both. The prices of goods and services would explode through the roof. Inflation would be completely out of control. Half the population would be stuck with a fixed income. Okay? And take that from one who knows. When the minimum wage goes up, we with fixed incomes, we don't celebrate that shit. Okay? Because we have fixed incomes. I already know that goods and services are going to go up in price to compensate for the increase in payroll. Okay? Andrew Yang, his UBI, it leads to the destruction of the market. I truly do believe that. The concept behind UBI is to raise all boats, and it doesn't. Not when you choose one to have one over the other. Safety net programs would be completely eliminated. Okay? I understand UBI probably will be great news for a small portion of the economy. But hey, you're talking to a man that has a housing voucher that, even though the rent is taken care of, that's still no great celebration. That's just how crushing the cost of living has become. $1,000 isn't shit. Alright guys, hopefully I have educated you. Hopefully I've opened up your eyes to Andrew Yang's bait and switch. That's what it is. It's definitely a bait and switch. You're definitely going to have to watch the sleight of hand. Time have I got? He wants to pay for this UBI with two different methods, but he isn't going to give his non-universal income to everybody, only to certain people, only to the employed. Okay, and the employed would think that it's great until they're not employed anymore. Okay? Whether it's through disability, whether it's through downsizing, whether it's through automation, whatever the issue may be, when it happens to you and you're suddenly left with your one funky $1,000 per month, well, welcome to the ranks of the homeless. All courtesy of Andrew Yang. Total Control 871.